Good?
Yeah,
Perfect. I hear it in my headphones. That's what I was trying to go for. But
man,
yes, what's good, Mr. Randy Brown?
bro, it's been too long, brother.
It's been way too long. I saw you running in my neck of the woods, man. Let me know when you're going out there next time. We'll
Dog,
get a little 3K little 5K going.
man, I when I first got back, I was in Florida for 2 weeks, and when I got back, I was running a good bit,
Okay.
and,
Like how often?
like every day. Greetings and salutations. You are tuned in to Milkshake Scholar Season 2. I am your host, Randy Winston, and on today's show, it's my privilege and an honor to have on my fellow book club brother and artist,
That's right.
Obed.
That's right.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What's good, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. Did I pronounce that right?
You got it. You got it. You got it. So
Uh,
actually, funny enough with the name, a lot of times people think my first name is African because I'm Kenyan, but actually it's not. It's just a random ass Old Testament name. Nothing.
uh,
People a lot of times I think just because it's not a common name, people assume that it must be African or must be Kenyan, but not. Just
that's
good old
dope.
Hebrew name.
That's
But the
dope.
last name is definitely the family name. That's my pop's name, so that's where the Kenyan comes in.
When you were asking me if the background noise would be an issue, I was just thinking about like the moment we're in this pandemic, and it's just like,
Hmm.
yo, I want this to be as organic as possible. So like, yo, if I
That's real.
one of my friends, his kid started crying during the middle of the recording, so he had to leave and come back. And
Okay.
he was like, I'm so sorry, and this and that. I'm like, nah, dude, that's totally cool. And then later we were talking, he was like, you know what? If you're okay, you can leave it in there. And I'm like, yeah, no doubt. I'm gonna leave it in there.
Okay, yeah, that's real life shit. Real
Real
life shit.
life, man. It's real life.
Yeah.
So we were talking about running. And so when I got back, because I was away for 2 months,
Go
and
ahead.
I was running down there, and it was like 78, 80, but no
Okay.
higher. And so
Okay.
like that's good running weather. And then I
Really? You like running in those temperatures?
well, here's the thing. So I came back here and it was
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
And I'm used to running in cold weather naturally. I'm used
Okay.
to running in cold weather because in Georgia, I ran cross country during the wintertime. So,
Oh, so you know. All right.
yeah.
All right.
So I come back here and it's 20, and my body just did not adjust to the going from
Okay.
80 to 20. So the first couple of weeks was okay. When it started snowing, that's when I stopped. So I
You're
actually,
like, nah, I'm good.
oh, I have not been back running since the weekend of Valentine's Day. So
Okay.
I saw next week. I saw that it's gonna
Okay.
be 60 during the day,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's supposed to be
5 in the
good. It's supposed to
morning.
be good.
So I
Yeah.
think that's gonna be me. And here's the thing: you were asking me if we should run together. I would
Yeah.
die.
Why you say that? Why you think you die?
Because my pace is so slow. I am nowhere near what I used to do. Because I used to
What do you
run competitive, and I don't
No,
do it.
same. Yeah, I did track and cross country all growing up, all
What
through
did
high
you?
school.
What were your races?
My events as a kid, I'll probably say from like 8 to probably 12, it was the 400.
Okay.
Soon as I got to like 12 in high school, then I went more into middle distance. The 8 was my main event in high school.
Hey, mad respect for the 800-meter runners. I think that is one
Yeah.
of the toughest races to run because when you're running the mile, it's more about endurance. When you're running the
Hmm.
400, it's more about like
That's a full out sprint
it's
at
a
that
full out
point, more or
sprint, and you
less.
don't really learn
Yeah.
that till you get to high school. But
Hmm.
man, the 800 is that middle
It's
because
that middle sweet zone. Yeah,
you
yeah,
gotta
yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
out,
So you,
but at the same time,
hmm
you gotta pace yourself.
hmm That's what, and actually, that's what I loved about it was that just what you said, that sweet spot is it's just long enough of a distance where some strategies coming into play, and it's not just who's the fastest. I mean, yes, that's always what it is in track, but I feel like once you start getting into the middle range and a little higher, now that's where strategies come into play. How am I pacing myself? When am I gonna hit the gas? That kind of thing. But
Man,
now, if you're a former track star, I ain't worried about the pace, man. we'll get out there and see what happens.
Nah, I be
Yeah,
going.
I think you're assuming I'm out here doing 5 6 minute miles, and that's not the story.
I listen. I was talking to one of my homegirls the other day, and she was telling me what she runs, and I was like, yeah, you would probably try to lap me because
I'm
I
at
like these days I'm just running just to run, and I don't care
same,
about time or
same.
nothing.
Nah, me either, me either. I'm at like a 9 is
Okay,
like comfortable.
yeah,
If I really had to do just a full out just 1 mile, I probably could get it to 7.5 or 8.
yeah.
Anything less than that, I'll be in the ER room as soon as we got out.
Yeah, I got down because I that was my first time running in almost 15 years. So when I was in Florida,
Oh, so it'd been a minute.
and so
Okay,
it's been a
okay.
minute. So I started around 13, then it dropped to 12, then it dropped to 11. When I was in when back in Brooklyn, Prospect Park, of course, with the hills, I
Yes.
noticed that I've been running faster, and I think it's because like once you get up that hill, like
Hmm.
and you start going back down, you pick up speed. And so
For sure.
I've
For
been
sure.
averaging around like low 11s, high 10s, and then the last
Yeah.
time I ran, it was 9 and 8. But
Hey, that's
I,
solid. Sub 10. We'll
I
take that.
but it's been a month, so I'm
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
back to ground zero.
No, I think I always do better with when I've got some accountability. Like for a little
Yeah.
bit, my girlfriend and I were going out every Wednesday and just doing that 5K, doing the loop. It's I feel like running's always funner with other people.
Mm,
Yes, it's a lone sport, like you're kind of doing it by yourself, but
yeah.
I always enjoy it a lot more when I'm doing it with other people. So yeah, we'll get out there, man. The weather's
Yeah,
getting
man.
good.
Let's
Yeah,
do it. Let's do
I'm
it.
trying to shed some of these pandemic pounds. So
Bruh, I
I'm
need
trying to get back out there.
Obed, you see me, I'm drinking a milkshake, man. This you would Obed, let me tell you something, man. This is a cornbread and maple syrup milkshake.
Interesting.
And
Cornbread
and
and
my and
maple
my
syrup.
screen done froze up again.
I know it did, but I hear you. I hear you.
Okay,
I
I'm
hear
just
you.
gonna fix it again, but I'm gonna keep talking. So
All right, no worries.
I got this milkshake from Lotus Scoop. It's in Brooklyn. It's a black owned business in Brooklyn.
Oh, get out of here. Where they at?
Let me see. It's I think they don't I gotta look it up on Google Maps. I don't actually know where they are in Brooklyn. I just know they're in
Hmm.
Brooklyn.
Because I was wonder every time I see you on the gram with the milkshakes, I'm always wondering like, yo, is he whipping these up at home? Is he buying these? I've always wondered.
Man, I've been trying. I've given up making homemade milkshakes, but
Okay,
um but yeah, they these are delicious.
I'm sure they are.
Delicious. But that's
And
also the
so,
reason.
what's your milkshake consumption in a week?
So honestly, it's going down tremendously since the pandemic. The only time I really get into them are when I'm doing these.
Mm, I see. I
I've
see.
really brought it back a little bit, but
Okay.
always happy to promote people that are doing those, making those milkshakes at those vendors because man, those things are delicious.
Yes, they are. Yes, they
Yeah.
are.
Tell me something. So I had Nana on, and for
Oh, you
those folks
did.
that are
All right.
for
That's
those
what's
folks
up.
that are watching, Nana and Obed have a podcast called Work Bay.
We do. We do.
And when I say I had her on, I had Nana on for season one, not season two. I haven't had her on for
I
season
got you. I
one.
got
And
you.
I was very fascinated by the story behind how you all met and how you ended up
Hmm.
starting the podcast. So I heard her side of the story. So I
Okay.
would love to
Okay.
hear your side of how you all met at work and then how that transitioned or transformed into you all working on a podcast together.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, a quick apologies to your listeners. I'm sure they've probably heard some version of this, but I'll tell my side, like you said. Um, so this was when did I start working there? This was summer of 2018.
Okay.
I started working at a nonprofit. And this was actually my first time like in an office environment, period. Because
Hmm.
before then, I'd worked in sales. I'd worked at
That's right.
T-Mobile for like 8 years or something. So I was just used to the retail, the kind of store environment. I never had the sitting in the cubicle behind a computer 8 hours kind of life. So it definitely was an adjustment. And I think what made it even more challenging was just there just wasn't a lot of black folk where we were working. There was a handful of us, but it was definitely mostly white, heavy white. Um, so I think in that space of time when I first started there, I was kind of trying to find out, I was trying to suss out how much I was willing to connect with my coworkers, because my policy has always been like, you're my coworker. As soon as the clock hits 5 and I punch out, like that's it, you know. Just the deuces. I might grab a quick beer with you after work, but I ain't hanging out with you on the weekend. Like I've always had I've always tried to build a really big distinction between work and play. Um,
Absolutely.
but anyhow, I came into the office one time with a book that I actually purchased from a vendor on a 2 train. There was
Uh,
this dude I used to, because I live off the 2-5. So there was this dude I used to see on the train. I'd probably catch him maybe once every 2 weeks. And he was just guerrilla style. He was out on the street selling his book. It was his I don't think it was self-published, or it might have been, but he was, the same way dudes are selling, some candy, whatever it is on the train, he was pushing his books.
dope.
So I was like, you know what? Let me support this good brother. And it was a type of book that I typically never read. It was kind of like a Zane kind of like black romance kind of book.
Hmm.
Literally the first one I've ever read in that genre. But it was solid. It was good. I actually really enjoyed it. So I had that book on me. When I was getting water, like by the in the kitchen at work. And so Nana sees the book and she asked me, like, what am I reading? What's it about? And I was like, bet, you know what? I'm almost done. I'm gonna give it to you. You read it, and then I'm curious to hear what you got to say about it. So fast forward probably about a week, because Nana's a quick reader. I think she got through it, and it wasn't that big of a book. She got through it fairly quickly. And then we ended up going to a coffee shop not too far from where we were
This
working.
the part of the story I didn't get.
Okay, all right. So I mean, it was some new. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we ended up hitting up a cafe, um, and then we I think we must have been there for a good like 2 hours. Like it started about the kind of the topics that were in the book,
Hmm.
which was centered around this dude, this black dude who was kind of navigating his relationship with himself, and also his relationship with a series of different women who were in his life at the time. And so, yeah, we ended up just having a really good conversation about the book, and that kind of like branched out into some other conversations as well. So I think even from that first interaction, or that first like kind of face to face, we noticed that we had like a good dynamic, and we were able to kind of have conversations, and they were in good faith, not like how it is like sometimes on Twitter. You and I, we send each other shit on there all the
Ooh.
time. It's hard to you know we be in the DMs. You be sending me some good shit, and I try and match you. But no, it was a really good conversation, and over time we would just have those, like maybe during lunch break, maybe once or twice a week we'd jump out for lunch and just talk about whatever. Um, so fast forward to December of that year, going into 2019. Um, I forget if I had asked her or she had asked me. I think what it was, I let her know. I was like, "Yo, we should just start a podcast. Like we have these conversations all the time. Um, I think we would have something to kind of a fresh perspective, or like a fresh take on a lot of the stuff that's topical, or like that's in the news, whatever it may be." Um, and funny enough, she actually had the same thought on her end before I reached out to her about it. So it was definitely some, synchronicity happening there. And yeah, and so I think recorded the first episode. And just last week, actually earlier this week, we just started recording the first episode for season 4. So
I was just
even
about to
the span
ask
of
you.
2 years,
I was just about to
yeah,
ask
the brand,
you when we getting the new stuff.
yeah, yeah, it's coming late March, late March, late March. So
I
we're we're,
know.
we're definitely we're
Go
definitely
ahead, finish
working
that.
on
Finish that
getting it.
thought.
No, no, I was just saying. Well, I think one thing for me is, yeah, no, the podcast has definitely helped me grow as an artist, because it's allowed me a space to kind of navigate a lot of thoughts and feelings that I have, but also being able to do that with someone who is just as invested in kind of fleshing some of these things out.
Mm,
So, for any of your listeners who have heard, or those who haven't, I definitely encourage y'all to check it out. Yeah, we usually end up getting into some really good conversations.
yeah,
Um, and it's definitely made me a lot more comfortable with kind of just expressing myself altogether. That's definitely is paid dividends in other parts of my life where maybe in situations or times where I didn't always feel like I had a voice. Now I'm definitely much more comfortable kind of, putting out whatever I'm thinking. And also book club was good for that too.
yeah. We
Yeah.
tell me something about Workbase. So the pandemic happens, and
Mm-hmm.
we start off, everyone's at home like a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Do you
Yep.
think um do you think doing a podcast and being able to like talk things through or like talk things out helped you as you were navigating the pandemic?
No, for sure, for sure. I always kind of think of the time that Nana record is its own form of therapy. I'm in therapy. I have a therapist, which is a different thing. But I kind of get the same feeling when, back in the day when we were going to the studio once or twice a week to record, and then eventually in the starting top of last year, we ended up doing a remote. Um, but no, definitely, the conversations that we end up having in any given week usually help set the tone for me, um, just in terms of where I'm at mentally or intellectually, kind of the things that are bouncing around in my head.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely, and I feel that gap when we're not recording. So
gotcha.
we finished recording season three at the end of September last year, and so we're picking it up now in March. So it's been a good like 5 months, which I didn't even realize, but time is doing weird shit in, in this pandemic anyway.
Is
But no, I definitely feel the difference of the time, like the weeks when we're on it and we're talking, and when that's not there.
Do you think or can you tell me about like one of the challenges that you have faced since the pandemic has started in relation to like doing a podcast? Because I imagine that being with Nana in studio, being with your partner that you do the podcast with in person is a different experience than
Hmm.
doing it remote.
Hmm. Interestingly enough, the drop off wasn't as much as I think either of us were worried that it would be,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of our chemistry or our dynamic when we're recording. Um, it certainly presented some challenges that we didn't have when we could just jump into the studio, bang it out, get an MP3 or a WAV file, and be done with it. Because now there's definitely more things that I take care of all of our production, so there's more things that I've had to factor in terms of with editing, having to worry about internet connection and Zoom glitching out. I think we tried like two or three different platforms before we settled on Google Meets, is what ended up working good for us. So it's definitely presented some technical challenges, but in terms of the quality of the conversations we're having, those that still remain the same.
I got you.
Yeah,
Um,
that still remain the same.
Tell me something about Twitter. So you and I,
Oh boy,
you and I are friends on Twitter, and
for sure.
we had this talk about like what you can and can't tweet. And I remember I was telling you that because of my work situation, I can't I can't like tweet the stuff that I always want to tweet. And I remember
Yeah,
that after
yeah.
that conversation, that's when we started DMing like
Yes,
stuff to each other
yes. We
more.
should have couldn't hit the feed
Right,
because
right,
could end
right.
up in the TM.
And like there's a whole underground world, I feel like, with everyone
For
where
sure.
there's the stuff that's public and everyone can see, whether it's Instagram or Twitter, and then there's
Hmm.
the DMs. Can you talk
Hmm.
a little bit about the importance of the DMs and how valuable they are to because I think sometimes people will put stuff out publicly and I'm like,
Hmm.
ooh, that should have been in the DM.
I
Not
see.
you, but I mean like people
No
that I
shit.
know.
Sometimes it might be me. You know, I'm not
I don't know.
immune to that.
Oh, like I think the stuff that you put out, I'm like, that's my man. That's what that's
Well, it's really I love that you asked this question, because what I've really tried to do for myself personally, I'd probably say in the past probably 5 years,
Mhm.
is close that kind of gap between what's the public me, who am I showing to the world, what am I presenting as, and just who am I as a, at my core, who am I? I've been trying my absolute best for those to just be one and the same.
Mm,
And I think, and like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the podcast had a big part to do with that because there were certain things that there's certain topics that we've had, whether it's about mental health or child abuse. Both Nana and I have had experiences of abuse when we were coming up. So just being able to have those conversations out in the open and with a platform that's continued to grow.
mm,
Now we have listeners in 25 countries. We've hit almost 30K in total plays. Like there's definitely it's definitely grown a lot larger than I think either of us had anticipated. But I think the comfort level that we've both come to in having those conversations has definitely afforded me the ability to close that gap that we were just talking about, where I'm not worried about what I'm saying out in the open, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's a tweet, whether it's an Instagram story or an Instagram post. So just thinking of my kind of public self in the digital space,
mhm,
like the question you're just asking me, I've tried my best for those to just be the same. Meaning you're gonna get the same thoughts, the same conversation from me as you do online, as you will face to face, or even just one on one if we're having a heart to heart. Because there was a time where those were very, very separate and removed, similar to kind of how you were saying now, like there's certain shit I can't say, whether it's for work or whether it's maybe some family is following me or whatever it may be. We all
ooh,
have different
family,
reasons.
the family.
Yeah, because for some folks that's what it is. Maybe moms is following them on Facebook or whatever it is. But for me, I've definitely just try to free myself of that. Just
Mm,
like this is me, this is who y'all gonna get.
yeah,
Love, like it, love it, hate it. Either
yeah.
way, I'm still gonna be me. You know what I mean?
I live vicariously through you on Twitter. I
I
really do.
know, I know. We've had some good conversations in the DMs. Um, but no, yeah, I think that's what I would challenge other folk to do as
And
well.
it's crazy. Like I do feel like you said, closing that gap. I do feel
Hmm.
that in some ways I've been more conscious of that. There are
Okay.
still some things that I'm just like, boy, like I'm not even. It's not even that I'm worried about saying it.
What do yeah, I'm curious. What do you think that's rooted in? Where do you think that hesitation or that
Honestly,
kind of
it's just the fact that I of where I work. That's all. It's,
okay, okay. So
yeah.
it's a career kind of work thing for you.
Yeah, it's just where I work. Not at the magazine, because the magazine, you know, I've done stuff and like put a spotlight on myself with the magazine, and a lot of them follow me. It's the
Okay.
other job that I won't mention, but it's the other job
All
where
right, all right.
they won't they and I'm sure you've worked for people in the past where like some
Mm-hmm.
folks are not friends with you at work.
Mm-hmm.
They just you're rarely in a meeting with them, and they
Mm-hmm.
snoop around on the socials, and they'll see something.
Oh, well, that's what I meant. Like, that's why, like I mentioned earlier, I always had that divide. I never had coworkers online.
Right. One of my former employers, I had a
Mm.
rule there that no one can follow me on social media. And respect to all those folks because they, you know, they
Oh, so
respect.
that was a boundary that you established with them.
Absolutely, absolutely. I
Okay.
do.
Okay.
While I work with people, I don't want to connect with them on social media. It's
I'm
just
the same way. I'm the exact
yeah,
same way.
it's just
Yeah.
professional. Let's just keep
Yep.
it. Here's the
Yep.
line. Even
Yep.
and even if we go to happy hours, like there's been people I will go to happy hours with, and I'm like, yo, this is
Hmm.
still the rule. And then when I
Hmm.
leave the job, then I'll send out that goodbye email, and I'll say,
Yeah. Yeah. If you're trying to
hey,
find me, yeah.
yeah. So that's been the deal,
I
but
feel that.
it's
Well, you and I are the same then in
yeah.
that regard, because that's the exact same approach I've had with it.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. Like I do feel that I've been a bit more open about stuff, and so I'll say more. I've definitely said more in the past couple of years on Twitter, but I also do say even more in the DMs as well. I'll leave
Yes, yes,
it.
that's where the real world gets out. But as we're talking, I had a thought. I think some of this stuff is definitely rooted in like respectability politics of
Absolutely,
especially for us as Black folk, of
absolutely,
having to always feel like we always have to present ourselves as professional at all times, whether we're on the
absolutely.
clock or off the clock.
Yeah,
So I think in some ways, code switching is a good example
yeah,
of a lot of times when we find ourselves in these predominantly white spaces, we're having to speak their language. We're having to speak in a way that they can um, not necessarily understand, because they can understand us too when
hmm
we're speaking the AVE. I think it's just in a way that a lot of times we're forced to engage in ways that will still allow us to be seen in a certain light.
right,
And I think what we're seeing now is a lot of people are starting to push back and challenge that.
absolutely.
And I've seen, speaking of Twitter, I've seen those tweets where folks like, nah, like I'm deading the code switching thing. Like, this is me, this is how I talk.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm going to speak and talk in the same way in the boardroom as I do when I'm out on the block. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
man.
that's the energy I'm on. Is like,
Yeah,
let's just
and,
be,
and
authentically ourselves at all times.
you mentioned something about the AAVE. It's like I'm a fiction editor, and
Okay.
I promise you, there have been people that have seen me at an event, whether it's
Hmm.
virtual or in person, and they will go on Twitter to follow
Hmm.
me, and they'll look at, the
Hmm.
first thing you do when you go to someone's Twitter is you look at their tweets. And
Yeah, you see. Yep.
I'm sure they've seen my tweets and been like, that he's a fiction editor. I just, it's like you said, it's like this is how I talk. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to have to sugarcoat that. It's Twitter.
No.
Uh,
Yeah. 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 Let me have this at the very least. Let me have this
exactly.
little slice of the internet, and without, you know, any rules and all that. No, I feel that. I
Exactly.
feel that. I
And
feel that.
that's the one
Yeah.
thing I do respect about Slices, the magazine that I work for. They have allowed me to be me. And I do appreciate that because
Okay.
I
Okay.
imagine that if they wanted to let me go because of Twitter, they would have done it already. So yeah, yeah, man. But
It would have been happened. Well, that's the thing. Do they have? And I guess that's one thing.
well, we're all
Can
about
you hear
like
me, or did it freeze up?
it froze up for a second, but you're back. Can you see me?
I'm good. Okay. All right. Just
Yeah.
making sure there wasn't a lag or something.
Yeah. No, they
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yep. Yep.
Slice. I love Slice. Like we have our guidelines and our rules and everything like that, but at the same time, they let us be who we are. That's they brought me on. Like, and I imagine this is the thing. Like, and I guess in I don't want to say I guess, but in most spaces that bring in someone who is black and there's no
Hmm.
one else who's black in that room or on that team, you
Hmm.
bring that person in knowing that all right, we're gonna let them be who they are. That's
You would
why you
hope.
want me here.
You would hope. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
would hope because
Yeah.
sometimes that don't happen. But
It
I know
doesn't always shake out that way. Yeah.
absolutely. And I think the
Yeah.
reason why I did go to Slice was because I felt that that was like I could be myself. And that's a testament to them. And I've been there now, I've been there since 2016. So
Oh
yeah,
shit. Okay.
yeah.
5 years. That's
So
what's up. Yeah.
it's
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's been a minute, man. I love it
No,
there.
and you feel that. You feel that.
Mhm.
And just like you just said right now, that's something you feel in your body when you're in spaces that allow you to be, authentically yourself, and to fully express all the different parts of yourself versus
Absolutely.
feeling like you're being stifled or feeling like
Absolutely.
you know what I mean. So no,
Yeah. I
that's
mean,
hey,
and
shout out to
that
Slice.
even goes to like the content too, because if I'm coming in as
Hmm.
a black editor, like I want to bring in more black work,
For sure,
and so and not
for sure.
just literary fiction. I wanted to be speculative. I wanted to be fantasy. I wanted to be
Hmm.
experimental, and
Hmm.
I'm allowed to do those things. Like I'm given the freedom to do those things, not allowed the
No, that's
freedom
what's
to
up.
do those.
Yeah, the freedom.
So
Yeah,
yeah, man, I love it. It's been great.
no, that's
Um,
dope.
Tell me, you have so for those that don't know, Obed does photography too,
I do, I do, I do.
and you're damn good at it. And
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
you have one of my favorite New York City stories, and it's about Zendaya.
Okay.
Can you
I
tell
was like, wait, where's this going? Okay,
tell
yes,
folks
yes,
about that?
yes.
Tell you can tell me the story. I love hearing it. But tell me how that unfolded.
And actually, speaking about Twitter, I did a thread about it. I guess that was that actually technically that not technically that was last year. That was
Hmm.
like probably a month before the pandemic hit. Um, but basically, what it was, I had a roll of film that I needed to get developed. Um, and I was looking for somewhere to do it. And I'm actually a part of a photo collective, so I put a ping in there like, yo, is there anyone know a good place I can go get it done cheap, get it done quick? And they mentioned Bleecker Digital, so it's this little film shop in Manhattan. So I was like, you know what? Let me. I think I was off that day. So I was like, you know what? Let me just head out there. Um, and what was it was actually a disposable camera I had, and I had I think two or three exposures left on it. And so I figured while I was en route from Flatbush out to the city, that I would find those three pictures on my way there. That way, by the time I'm walking into the shop, I've used up all the exposures and they can edit it. So I forget what the first two were. It might have been maybe like on the train or maybe once I got off, probably something like street photography style. Um, but then I had one last exposure left on the disposal camera, and um, I had walked. It was probably about a block or two from where the film store is or the film shop. I had seen this guy sitting on the stoop and he looked interesting. It was like, all right, maybe this might be the one. But then I was like, I wasn't really feeling it. And I think that's the one gift of film is it forces you to be a little bit more deliberative about your process, just in terms of what you're choosing to capture. So I skipped on him. I was like, cool, yeah, that nothing too interesting there. And then I got out in front of Bleecker Digital, and there was not, I don't want to say commotion, but there was you could tell something was going on because there was a lot of people starting to congregate. Um, and then I started talking to this gentleman, um, talking to him, and he wanted me to actually take a picture for them because I think they might have been in a similar situation as me. They probably had just a few exposures left that they wanted to use up before they jumped into the store and got it developed. And so I was like, yeah, bet, no problem. I got you. Um, and I started talking to him. Um, and then I noticed that people around us are like taking pictures, and I'm like, what's going on here? Like, what's up? And he's getting upset because the folks aren't giving him space to just have the conversation he was having with me. So I start talking to him. I ask him his name. He says his name is Jacob. Um, and and then I see Zendaya probably right behind him. And I think she also was getting into it with some paparazzi dude. And I in my head, I'm not too familiar with her, but I recognize her just from the fashion world because she's one of the top sought after celebrities for brands and whatnot. So I recognized that it was her. I didn't know who he was,
Mm.
and I think it wasn't until after the fact that I realized I think his last name's Alordi, Jacob Alordi, and I think I actually haven't watched what's that show she's got on HBO?
Oh, I watched it. I watched the whole thing and loved it.
I forget what it's called, but
Wow,
you know what
wow,
I'm
Randy,
talking about.
wow.
It'll probably come back to you. It'll come
Oh
back to you.
man,
But
yeah, it's
anyhow,
amazing. It's
anyhow,
so good, so good.
yeah, yeah. No, actually, no. Just so the listeners get it. Let me just do that quick search as I'm talking. But
I gotta
anyhow,
Google it.
he tells me his name is Jacob, and he's talking about how he really enjoys photography, and so does Zendaya. And
Euphoria.
so I take the picture for them. Euphoria. Yeah, I just looked it up myself too. Yeah, Euphoria. Um, so I take that shot from, and actually, I started chopping it up with her as well, and she also was sharing that how she's really into photography and she takes a lot of pictures on her own, and she had a really cool kind of old school film camera. So I took the shot for them, and then I remembered, like, yo, I still got one in the tuck. Like I remember I still had one last exposure myself. So I was like, hey, if you guys don't mind, that was the deal I made with them. I was like, yep, I'll take this for y'all as long as y'all let me just capture one last one on my camera. And they were real chill about it. They hit me with their best b-boy pose. I think you've seen the picture,
Yeah,
um, and right in front of the shop. And yeah, it was definitely one of those only in New York moments. Would something would all these things kind of line up and come together? Um, but I think one thing that I really took up from that experience, and I think it was probably because I do a lot of assisting during Fashion Week. So during Fashion Week, I'm out. There's these two photographers I work with from Italy, so I'm usually assisting with them. So we're going to all the top shows. So like I'm used to seeing celebrities. Like it just is not. I'm not like
yeah,
fangirling anytime I see a celebrity.
yeah,
So I think for me that's what it was when I saw them. Um, I just was talking to them like person to person, and I'm
right,
sure that's something I imagine they probably appreciate
yeah,
versus people always, oh my God, you know what I mean? I'm sure that gets old after a while. I'm maybe one day I'll be a celebrity, but I know for me, I'll always just appreciate just regular old conversations. So I think that's what it was. I think that's what made when all these other people were trying to do the same thing I was of just trying to have a conversation with them. I was just talking to them person to person, the same was Zendaya, and I think they appreciated that.
yeah.
Because
Hey,
that's the one thing I've just real quick. That's the one thing I've always learned about, especially portrait photography, which is my main kind of lens. Is that's always a negotiation. You're always
mhm,
negotiating for people's time and for their space. And that's something I never take for granted. I never take that lightly. That people are granting me the opportunity to share time and space with them.
yeah,
So I was definitely honored as well that they both afforded me that in that moment. It was a special moment. It's one I'm sure I'll never forget that.
oh man. Hey, and you
Yeah,
said something like you talk to them like like the human beings, like the people. I know like
yeah,
that's my number one rule whenever I see celebrities. It's been a rule of mine for a long time. Like, don't nag. Just
don't do the most. Don't do the
yeah,
most.
just don't do the most. Like I remember one of the a really cool moment that kind of took me home was I was in
Hmm.
Dumbo with Yadon and we ran into Andre 3000 on the sidewalk.
Oh shit, get out of here.
And we
Were y'all,
just
were y'all at Dumble House or you were just walking around in
we
Dumbo?
were at Dumbo House, then we left. And he had been in
Okay,
there and he
okay.
left like an hour before us or whatever. So I didn't think I was
Yeah,
gonna see
yeah,
him anymore. And
yeah.
we're on the sidewalk and he's just kind of casually walking around by himself. And
Did he have his flute?
Yadon stopped him to ask him a question, and then
Yeah,
he looked at me and realized I was with Yadon, and so we all started talking, and I
chopping it
shared that
up.
I was
Yeah,
from like same area that he grew up in or
for
whatever,
sure, for sure.
and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was cool. Like it wasn't like like you could tell that he felt comfortable because, like you said, we
Yes.
weren't trying to invade his space and be weird.
Nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
dope, man. It was a good moment.
yeah.
I got
I
one
think the
more.
only the
Yeah, go
only
ahead, go ahead.
person who I'd probably lose my shit for if I saw him on the streets is Dirk Nowitzki, and that's just because that's my favorite basketball player.
Yeah, I
That's
did.
probably the only person who I would be like.
Yeah, I know this from knowing you. You would probably lose
I
it.
probably would. I probably would. I probably would.
that
Because
reminds
I've been to a bunch of games, but I've never met him like up close and personal.
that reminds me. Rest his soul, Kobe. I saw Kobe in
Yeah.
at All Star Game 2003 in Atlanta,
Like
and
at the game, you were at the game.
I wasn't at the game. I was there. I had passes to go to like some weekend
Oh
stuff, All Star
shit.
weekend stuff,
Okay.
and
How'd you
I
get that?
saw. I don't even know how. Oh, it was a homegirl of mine who was connected with some
Who
folks.
hooked it up? All right,
Hooked
that's
it
what's
up.
up. Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
Kobe is leaving, and
Okay.
he had said, funny enough, he had said
Hmm.
goodbye to Dirt Nowitzki, and
Interesting.
he's
Okay.
leaving a hotel, and there's a
Uh-huh.
mob of people following him. And in that moment, I'm thinking about my role, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
should I be one of these fanatics that's following
Yeah,
him? I'm like,
yeah.
yes.
You're
and
like,
and
yes,
we
that's what
were
I'm going to do.
and we were far enough that it didn't feel as weird. It wasn't like we were
Okay.
just like within reach. He was like
Okay.
he had security all around him, and he was
Oh, okay. So he wasn't just out in these streets.
right. And so I was
Okay.
just like, oh, this
Okay.
is a cool moment. This is somebody I've looked up to all my life. So I was just like,
For sure.
I gotta see
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get to talk to him? Did you like
No,
anything?
no.
Or at least you laid eyes on
He was that far
him.
away. And then another funny story, real quickly, is I got a good friend of mine works for Golden State in the front office,
Oh, that's right. I remember you mentioning that. Or
and
and also the Lakers too. Don't you got a friend that works on the Lakers?
no. My my boy worked for Atlanta before he went to Golden State.
Got you.
And so he was able to get me and a good friend of mine backstage passes or whatever,
Access.
which means
Yeah,
you get to
yeah,
sit with the
yeah.
family after the game. So we went to the
Oh
Lakers and
shit.
Hawks, and
Okay.
afterwards, I'm sitting there. This was right after Mitch Kupchak traded Kwame for Powell. So Obed,
Oh,
get this,
wow. You were
get
hype.
this.
I know you were hype.
I was so hyped. I'm sitting there. I'm sitting a row behind Derek Fisher's family. So Derek Fisher comes out, and I see Derek
Oh,
Fisher,
wow.
and
Okay.
I see Andrew Bynum and all these guys because they're coming to the stands.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
see Phil
yeah.
Jackson. I see Mitch. Like the whole
Okay.
crew.
You
I'm
saw
sitting
the whole squad. Yeah,
like we're
yeah.
literally like I could have literally just walked up to anybody and be like, "Yo, what's up? My name's Randy." Like it was.
That's dope.
Everyone was right there, and the only
That's
person that
dope.
did not come out in enough time was Kobe, and I was just like,
Was Kobe.
"Yep."
The only one who I saw out on the street. I went to school in Central Florida, so I used to go out to Orlando all the time. Um, and I remember actually, I think it was after a game. I think I went out to a Magic game, and this is when I saw Victor Oladipo, when he because who he started with as a rookie.
That's dope.
Um, so I remember crossing him when I was going to the club or going somewhere downtown, and he was just chilling, just hands in his hoodie.
That's
You
dope.
know, he was a rookie, and he didn't have all the fanfare, but I recognized, oh shit, that's Victor.
Let me ask you. I know I want to get you out of here. I know you got the fam and everybody in the back.
Yeah, yeah, no
Um,
worries, no worries.
one more question. What
Mm.
is the song that plays during the opening credits of your biopic?
I thought long and hard about this because you gave me this prompt, and at first I was like, "Yo, I really don't know what song," because I love music, so it was hard for me to narrow it down to one song. But then it hit me, and it would definitely be Umi says Most Def.
Okay.
Umi
Okay.
says, "Shine your light on the world,
Okay.
shine your light for the world." That would be the one. Just
Love it.
opening credits, just everything about that song is speaks to me. You know, just in terms of shining your light with the world. And then later on in the hook, I just want all my black people to be free, to be free. So that definitely would be it. That definitely would be it. That
That's
definitely
dope,
would be it.
man. I love that.
Mhm.
I love that.
Mhm. Good timing.
My brother.
As soon as we wrapped up, it was a pleasure, man. It was a pleasure,
Yeah,
man. Thanks for
man.
having me on, and I'm looking forward to checking the episode out and all the rest. And Like I said earlier, anyone interested, I know you mentioned the work bay. We're on all the streaming platforms. Would love to get some of your listeners in the fold too.
Oh, absolutely. You know, I'm gonna
And
go
we're
ahead.
definitely Nana and I definitely gonna bring you on too. I like a good cross pollination situation.
Let's do it,
But
brother. Let's do it,
all
brother.
right, man.
I
All right,
appreciate you coming on, man. I really do.
for sure. It's all love, man. I appreciate you
Hey, give the family my best. Tell everyone I say hello, and
for sure.
I
I'll
catch you on the
catch you in the
flip side.
DMs.
Text me when you're
Yep,
back in the city, and we'll figure out a
most
run.
def, most def. We will,
All right,
we
brother.
will.
Be well, man.
All right, man. Peace.
See ya.